Welcome to Colombo and Company on a Friday afternoon. And even though it's the end of the week, there is no shortage of news to discuss. We once lived in a world where Fridays were kind of slow news days going into the weekend. You'd get the occasional, it was a perfect way to hide like a big announcement if you thought there was going to be negative reaction to it or something like that. So sometimes you'd get like this, like a big headline on a Friday that they were just trying to get out there and then get away from for the weekend. Fridays are not like that anymore. Fridays are just as busy as any other day of the week, and we've got breaking news to discuss, of course, regarding the Supreme Court ruling on Trump's tariffs and the continued reaction and fallout from that. So we will be discussing that as we go through the afternoon. By the way, I'm Tony Colombo. Thanks for joining us here on Colombo and Company. We also have the latest, if there is any, on the partial government shutdown that nobody cares about or is talking about. We got the State of the Union coming right around the corner on Tuesday night. You'll be able to listen to that speech right here on News Talk STL. Talk about that a little bit as we go through the afternoon as well. And to help us do all of these, we'll have a little Friday fun time. We'll always have a little Friday fun time to send you off into the weekend with hopefully a smile on your face. And to help us with all of these things, in the 3 o'clock hour, we've got Danny Define joining us in studio. We're also at 3 o'clock going to talk to Susie Moore. She's going to call in. She's usually with us on Tuesday afternoons, but Susie has been busy. I heard her on with Vic and Ken earlier today and, reacting and giving us some of that legal insight behind this Supreme Court ruling. So looking forward to that. We'll also get the weekend forecast for you at about 2:45 from Channel 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton. That's always super important, so definitely keep it here for that. And starting the show right now with us, we got a double dose and a perfect day to have all the help that we can get. We've got Ken Williams in studio.
Hey, Tony.
Hey, buddy. Great to see you.
Good to see you, man.
And like the old days on Fridays, Gabe Pfeiffer is on the line with us. Gabe, hello.
Happy Friday, guys.
Yeah.
Hey, Gabe.
Gabe was not able to be with us on Monday, and so he is joining us here on Friday, which is awesome. Was this Monday President's Day? Was it just this?
I think so.
Yeah.
Jeez. So I know that's why we weren't here. We weren't here on President's Day, so we had to reschedule with everybody on Monday. Golly, that feels like President's Day feels like it was a month ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, really.
I can't believe that was just this past Monday.
Well, the crazy thing about that is I had someone tell me before President's Day, President's Day is coming up. I'm like, no, it's not. It was going by so quickly that I didn't even realize.
What are you talking about?
It also
what are you
felt
talking about?
early. I thought President's Day was always like February 20-something, not the 16th.
Yeah.
Like it was this year.
It just seemed early to me,
It
yeah.
seemed very early, it did. But it also adds to the fact, just how crazy fast this year is flying by. We only got 1 week left of February, which is just crazy to me. All right, so I want to talk to you guys about this. And like I said, we're going to get some of the legal insight from Susie Moore in the 3 o'clock hour about this. But just to catch everyone up, in case you don't know the details of this, U.S. Supreme Court scrambled the trade landscape today. This is a report from Yahoo Finance. Scrambled the trade landscape today with a decision striking down the centerpiece of Trump's second-term tariff program. The 6-3 ruling in Learning Resources, Inc. versus Trump appears set to immediately halt a massive section of Trump's tariffs announced last year using a 1977 law called the International Emergency Economic Powers Act, EPA. The law gives the president the ability to declare an economic emergency and take action, but does not specify tariffs as a remedy. Quote, EPA does not authorize the president to impose tariffs, read the decision by Chief Justice John Roberts. Stocks immediately rose on the complex ruling with multiple opinions and dissents stretching to 170 pages. Roberts captured the central legal finding, writing that Trump had asserted, quote, the extraordinary power to unilaterally impose tariffs of unlimited amount, duration, and scope. The text of the law, he added, quote, cannot bear such weight. Trump said at a press conference today, and we'll get more into Trump's reaction and some of the actions he's already taken. But his immediate reaction was at this press conference where he said he was, quote, deeply disappointed by the decision and ashamed of certain members of the court, saying the justices who ruled against him were being politically correct. The president promised that tariffs would quickly be returned in other forms, using other authorities at his disposal, and promised to make tariffs, quote, even stronger in the future. So it was a 6-3 ruling. Joining Roberts in the majority were Justices Gorsuch and Amy Coney Barrett. And then, of course, on the other side, in the dissent were Samuel Alito, Clarence Thomas, and Brett Kavanaugh. Ken, I know you guys talked about this a little bit today, and you even had a chance to talk with Susie, which we'll get a chance to here in about 45 minutes. What do you think of all this?
We need those tariffs, and there's no way, I cannot imagine that an international, because what's the IEE, whatever
EPA?
Yeah.
IEEPA?
Yeah, it has international in it, correct?
Yes, it
Okay,
does.
so we're going to be governed by an international regulation?
International Emergency Economic Powers Act.
Yeah, I don't get that.
EPA.
I don't get, whatever the case may be, I don't think that they're going to say, okay, sorry, we'll give all that $1 trillion back. We're just going to have to give it back.
Well, Gabe, one of the things, and we can unpack this with Susie a little bit later on, but one of the interesting parts of this is that the Chief Justice in his ruling said that, quote, EPA does not authorize the president to impose tariffs, but it also doesn't. It doesn't say he can, but it also doesn't say he can't. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like it's their interpretation of the ruling as he gets into a little bit later on, into the printed ruling where he talks about how this has basically gone too far, and that can't bear the weight of the level that he's used this at. I don't know. Like I said, we'll get some more clarification from Susie, but it looks like to me that there was some interpretation done by these judges. Gabe, what do you think?
Yeah, I imagine there was a bit of interpretation, but one of the kind of sticky wickets that we've been dealing with for a while now is kind of understanding where the various branches draw their powers and where the lines are between them. So, I mean, my very basic understanding about the executive is that it has, at least in the past, been the one that holds the power to negotiate with other countries and how we are to deal with them. And as far as I understood, that included imposing tariffs on imports. So in that regard, I'm assuming that there is some means by which the executive still has that power, whether this EPA law or not. And that's what was on the case. That's the case that was before the Supreme Court, and that's what they ruled on. So there may be other avenues for the executives. I think the Trump administration said as much, that they're going to be looking for other ways to implement the tariffs that he wants. But my main thing is I want the various branches to hold the powers that they are afforded the Constitution, and for them to stop getting in each other's way. And that's what I would really like to do. I would really like a functioning government, please.
Yeah, that'd be really nice. And it just seems, it does seem, it has the idea, it has the air of being a little partisan to me. Susie was talking about statutes and rewording and what they might have to do with Congress. This isn't a done deal by any stretch of the imagination, but I think, and I don't want to take the wind out of Susie's sail. She'll explain that stuff.
No.
But I think you know,
take all the wind you want.
Well, when you have Tony, when you have 140 countries around the world using tariffs on the United States, and then Donald Trump comes in and says, well, now we're going to do the same thing. Now that suddenly they're bad. I can never understand that. No one's been able to answer that question for me. So for me personally, Donald Trump doing what he did, President Trump does tariffs. I think it's just to get on an equal playing field.
To your point, so agree. I totally agree with you on that. The point of whether you agree with every tariff that the president has issued or the levels that he's issued them at, there's no argument that we have been taken advantage of.
Big time.
That we have played
Decades.
by a different set of rules. The United States has been held to a totally different standard than the rest of the country, and Trump has evened the playing field in many regards when it comes to these tariffs. I have regular guests. I know that I don't want to put words in anybody's mouth, but I don't think Crane Durham is a fan of the tariffs, and I believe that Paul Kurtman is. We're going to talk to Paul, our economic expert, on Monday. That'll be perfect time after we've had time to digest this over the weekend, so I'm really looking forward to that. Paul has talked about how, from the economic standpoint, how the tariffs have helped the economy and the markets and, this second Trump administration in a big way. So to your point, Ken, of this probably not, and the president has said as much, that this isn't going to stop his agenda. There's going to be other ways to go about, accomplishing these same actions and that the tariffs have accomplished for him to this point. But it's going to put a speed bump. It's going to mess things up temporarily. It's already, wreaked a little bit of havoc with the economy. And talking about the ruling and the president saying it was politically correct, and, we're talking about interpretation. You were kind of touching on this also, Ken. What do you think of the idea of, it's not, John Roberts doesn't ever surprise me. He could fall.
No longer,
he could
no.
fall on either. He's supposedly a conservative, but he could fall on either side of any vote. You really never know. Gorsuch is a little more surprising, and Amy Coney Barrett is the most surprising. What do you think about these, conservative judges joining the Democrats on the court and making this a 6-3 ruling?
Well, we were reading the stream chat boxes when we were talking about.
I don't understand enough about the issue. Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Hello?
No,
we got you. Go ahead, Gabe.
Go ahead,
You go ahead. Go ahead, Gabe. Go ahead.
Okay, all right. I don't understand enough about the issue to say one way or the other where they're coming from, except that I do know, there are sometimes a conservative judge will come down on a certain area on a ruling because they're sticking very strictly to an originalist interpretation, or they have some sort of precedent that they're going. It's basically the legalese stuff. I like to leave that stuff to Susie, but I just in general, I have always been disappointed with the supposedly conservative justices who've been appointed to the Supreme Court. Very often they've kind of come down occasionally, or sometimes all the time, like with John Roberts on somewhere else, somewhere you weren't expecting. If we could all have, if all conservative justices could be Clarence Thomas, I think all conservatives would be very happy.
Yeah. And Ken, to that point, I don't want, and I don't think well, that's not true. I was going to say I don't think anybody wants, but I know the left wants justices that will always go along with the attitude of the party no matter what. I don't want that. I don't want judges that are like, well, if it's a Republican president and I'm supposed to be a conservative judge, I better agree with the, I want them to have independent thought. But to Gabe's point, many times it seems like something changes with
my goodness,
some of these judges,
Tony,
as they're
Gabe
after they're appointed. Go ahead.
Gabe's right, because at least if a conservative president assigns a Supreme Court justice, you would think that they'd at least be 60-40 in their favor, right? I don't think that's the case at all. In the Democrat Party, they've been wanting to pack the Supreme Court because they haven't been getting their way. So they start crying and say, "We're packing the Supreme Court." They don't need to. Why do they need to? They most of the opinions go their way anyway. They do.
That's a good point. That's Ken Williams. He is in studio with us for another segment. Gabe Pfeiffer's on the line with us. He is sticking around as well. We're going to get Trump's reaction and some of the announcements that have already been made by the White House regarding their next actions when it comes to tariffs, now that this ruling has been released by the Supreme Court. We also have the State of the Union coming up. I want to talk to these guys about expectations, and is it a big deal? Do we care? What do we expect from this State of the Union on Tuesday night? We'll talk about all those things and more as we continue with Ken Williams and Gabe Pfeiffer next here on Colombo Company.
I was once out strolling one very hot summer's day when when I thought I'd lay myself down to rest in a big
Made in St. Louis
field
for
of
St.
tall
Louis.
grass.
It's News Talk STL.
I lay there in the
If
sun.
you have a phone, you have a radio.
I listen to News Talk STL on the app driving to work.
Download the News Talk STL app
You gotta get the News Talk STL app.
Love the app. Can listen anywhere in St. Louis.
and listen anytime. News Talk STL right on my phone. Anywhere.
So just talking about Monday afternoon, we'll talk to Paul Kurtman. We also, every Monday, talk to Mike McCleary from Intervine, local family-owned business that makes the best flashlights, lanterns, and headlamps available on the market. Mike, of course, is our AI expert, big tech expert here on the show. Always great insight when it comes to AI issues whenever we get a chance to talk to Mike McCleary. But if you haven't had a chance yet to check out intervine.com, in all the great flashlights, lanterns, headlamps, everything from like the high-tech, heavy-duty tech flashlights and state-of-the-art lanterns for the outdoorsman, that scene, all the way down to the smaller, more reliable flashlights and headlamps that easily go in a drawer of your home or the glove box of your vehicle. So you always have that super bright, very reliable light source, no matter what is happening. Also, they sell batteries in all different sizes at Intervine and intervine.com. AA, AAA batteries. You can stock up on all of these things. Everything that they offer at Intervine for 25% off just by using my name, Tony, Tony, as your promo code. You'll never find a better deal. It's if you need that flashlight, lantern, headlamp, whatever it may be, take advantage of it. And if you're like our house, which is full of toys and electronics, stock up on batteries and do it all for an amazing price with that 25% off. Again, just use my name, Tony, as your promo code. Intervine is INTERVINE. Use my name, Tony, for 25% off everything at intervine.com.
Hey, it's Vic and Ken with something important.
Yeah, Missouri's veterans aren't done serving, they're leading.
Join us March 5th, 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. at Washington University's historic Holmes Lounge for the next mission, Missouri's Veterans Leading the Way.
Hear from General Frank Grass, former member of the Joint Chiefs, plus veteran leaders from Equifax and Scale AI.
Business leaders, veterans, and community members from across Missouri. This conversation on veteran leadership and mental health matters.
It's free and open to the public, but seating is limited.
Register now at welcomehomeforum.org.
This Winter Games Update brought to you by Corel Roofing and Best Buy Flooring.
But again, Westwood One Sports presents this special update on the 2026 Winter Games, sponsored by Grainger. Grainger, for the ones who get it done. The Canada men's hockey team getting it done in the semifinals, erasing a 2-0 deficit to beat Finland 3-2. The game winner coming with 35 seconds left in regulation, a power play goal by Nathan McKinnon. Captain Sidney Crosby did not play because of a lower body injury. We're minutes away from the second semifinal. Team USA and Slovakia. The U.S. has not reached the gold medal game since 2010. Men's free ski half-pipe final. It is over. American Alex Ferreira wins the gold, his third medal in this event, but first gold. Teammate Nick Gepper finishing in fourth. He had a scary crash on his final run. Walked off on his own power, though. Another American, Burke Irving, finishing in fifth. With this Winter Games update, I'm Brad Heller, Westwood One Sports.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers. So we build specially adapted homes at Homes for Our Troops. And thanks to our donors and supporters, this life-changing gift of freedom is provided mortgage-free to these veterans. But we need you to join us, too, in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
O'Reilly. Put your tax refund to good use on vehicle maintenance at O'Reilly Auto Parts. From basic maintenance to a major repair, we have the parts and tools to keep your car on the road. Make 2026 your best year yet by investing your tax refund in the vehicle you already own. Stop by your O'Reilly Auto Parts store or shop O'ReillyAuto.com.
O'Reilly Auto Parts. This is absolutely fantastic.
Yes, I listen on my phone.
If you have a phone,
You have a radio. It is awesome.
download the all-new News Talk STL app and listen anytime, anywhere.
Welcome back to Colombo and Company on 101.9 News Talk STL. Tony Colombo here in studio with producer Ashlyn and the co-host and executive producer of the Vic Porcelli Show, Ken Williams, in studio. And also on the line with us is Gabe Pfeiffer, News Talk STL contributor, former co-host of Mike Ferguson in the morning. So talking about tariffs and the ruling, and we're going to get back into that, and we're going to unpack it even more. In the 3 o'clock hour, about a half hour from now, when we get Susie Moore on the line, and Danny Define is also going to be in studio with us for the 3 o'clock hour. But I'm changing gears on the fly here, Gabe, because during the break, Ken and I started talking about outer space. And I thought,
here we go.
I thought, we've got our rocket scientists on the line. Let's talk about this on the air.
Let's go, baby.
The Artemis mission has been in the news. This is they've announced that there's going to be a March 6th. NASA has announced a March 6th launch for the Artemis 2 lunar mission. First of all, and I know you don't, you never know with Gabe. His real job is a mystery. Maybe he is. Maybe he does work for NASA somewhere in a deep, dark.
Right.
If you don't, I understand if you don't have all the details, but my guess is you have a little bit better understanding than we do about the Artemis lunar mission. Are we going back to the moon? What is happening here?
Yeah, my understanding is that is the goal, is to get humans actually back on the moon. Our Artemis is basically the new Apollo series of missions. So if you remember back in the day with the Apollo missions, not all of them actually put a person on the moon. Many of them were like single flights. They did an orbital flight and then come back. And this is all kind of testing capabilities, testing human responses to living under these certain conditions for periods of time and things like that. So Artemis is equally a staged mission where they're going to have various launches, not all of which are going to put a person on the moon. I think I can't remember. It might be the fourth or fifth missions. I can't remember. But yeah, it's going to be a couple more missions, but not very many years. If I remember correctly, it's like 2028 or something like that. They're wanting to put a person on the moon again. But yeah, this is one more step closer.
Why is the moon so important, Gabe?
One, it would be the staging ground for any sort of missions beyond to another planet, or even beyond our solar system. The moon is kind of the first step towards becoming a multi-planet species, and I think that's been one of these goals that Elon Musk has kind of popularized. He's talking about how we need to get to a different stage as humanity if we want to continue to move forward to develop, and I think having a permanent human presence on the moon is one of those things. Once we kind of get our feet wet, so to speak, in dealing with that sort of environment, having regular flights back and forth, the development of the technology necessary to accomplish having permanent residency essentially somewhere else other than Earth, that will take us a massive leap forward towards that Star Trek-like future that a lot of people are looking forward to.
Yeah, and a lot of, from what I've been reading, Gabe, isn't the 3D printer going to play a big role because of you can make like building-sized 3D printers and they can start actually manufacturing things on the moon to make it easier instead of transporting, having it there and then going from there because of the low amount of atmosphere there, they can take off a lot easier.
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple of advantages to constructing things and launching things from the moon. One of them being the lower gravity, but also in order to actually make it cost efficient to go there and kind of reside there, you want to not have to bring entire buildings with you,
Right.
essentially, right? So one of the solutions to that's been proposed, I'm not sure if it's been fully implemented, but it may be in the works, is to use basically a building size 3D printer to construct structures on the moon using moon dust and other chemicals to sort of make a local cement, essentially. So there's all kinds of neat technology involved.
Neat technology is definitely
I love
a
it.
way to say it.
I love it, man.
So
That's one way to say it.
So the reason this is back in the news today is because the Artemis 2 spaceship, whatever it's called, the shuttle or whatever it's called, has just completed some of the final tests. And so NASA and SpaceX are saying that they are basically ready to go as far as launching this mission. As I mentioned at the beginning, March 6th is the first targeted date to possibly launch this mission. And as Gabe said, it's not putting astronauts on the moon. It's going to be a flyover or a flyby of the moon. I think they're going to circle it several times in this first in this next Artemis mission. NASA says that that March 6th is the target date for this to happen because there's only 5 days in the month of March that are even possible for this type of launch. It didn't say if it would. Does that mean there's a 5-day window?
Yeah.
That's connected, or is there 5 different days throughout the month? How does that? What does that mean, Gabe? Or how do you interpret that?
That may be 5 different days in March. A couple of those days may be together, but launch windows are a thing. It's basically the launch location versus the Earth's relative position to the moon and things like that. So there's a lot of things to consider in rocket science, and launch windows are one of those. And in the month of March, there's only a few. There's only ever going to be a handful of optimal launch window days throughout an entire year. So even there's only a few per month, essentially.
Yeah, and satellites, right? Satellites and space debris and all these things.
There is traffic too.
Yeah, play into that where those opportunities, those holes, essentially lanes to launch anything, also plays into to the whole thing. So super interesting stuff. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, Gabe, Tony and I were talking off the mic.
Oh, yeah.
And doing the imagination type thing where I told Tony, I said, I think we need to build inside the moon and then use all the 3D stuff for outside as far as buildings go. But down, if you go down, it's the sun's rays and all that won't get to you as easily. And Tony said, I have another thing about inside the moon. So, Tony, why don't you tell us?
Yeah, my conspiracy theory, Gabe, is that there's something on the dark side of the moon that they haven't told us about.
Oh, the dark side of the moon. What have you heard about the hollow moon one?
Where I did.
I haven't. Tell us.
The moon is actually a gigantic alien satellite that happens to be covered in dirt.
Yeah, wasn't there some like sound waves that when a meteor hit at one point they read the sound waves like it was made of steel.
So
yeah, there's some sort of evidence that people in the conspiracy world.
I love a good conspiracy theory.
It's fun stuff.
Yeah, especially when it comes to space. I love a good conspiracy theory, but would that mean that the aliens that put it there did it like thousands of years ago? Because we have human record of the moon being there like way before humans could even write. So has it been there for thousands of years?
Oh yeah, the theory would say it would be millions of years. Actually.
Yeah,
right.
Basically since the Earth's formation, like the current setup of the Earth requires the moon. It's kind of hard to put into words, but basically the gravitational pull that the moon creates that brings us to tides, right?
Right.
And the tides are very necessary for the development of life in the oceans. So it's kind of like, okay, well,
so Earth doesn't work without the moon. At least the way Earth works now, it doesn't work without the moon.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So yeah. I mean, now of course, I am not a Hollow Earth practitioner or believer, because the amount of mass necessary to. But okay. But one of the key things about the moon to me is the idea that it can help us to move forward as a species. I do subscribe to that concept. And Ken, you're right. I think there's a lot. There were also a lot of talks about building underground inside the moon, because you basically use the surface of the moon as a protection against solar radiation and things like that, cosmic rays and all the like. So there's a whole lot of concepts going around as to what we're going to do when we get there. So I'm very curious to see it.
I'm very excited about this stuff, too. Before we move on, I want to get back to the Trump and the tariffs and a couple other things before we run out of time with Ken Williams and Gabe Pfeiffer. But before we move on, last question about the moon, Gabe. Can you confirm or deny that it is made out of cheese and has the cow jumped over it?
I can neither confirm nor deny that the cow jumped over the cheesy moon.
All right. I love it. We just we saw that announcement about Artemis 2 during the break, and we were like, well, we've got Gabe on the line, a rocket scientist, so let's talk about it for a minute.
Let's talk about it.
Now let's dive back into tariffs. Boring. Trump's reaction to this ruling earlier today, as we were talking about right before we talked about outer space, was Gabe and Ken, about the Supreme Court ruling that struck down many of Trump's powers that he has used with enacting tariffs in his second administration here. The president has reacted and made some announcements after that ruling was made, saying today, quote, other alternatives will now be used to replace the ones that the court incorrectly rejected. This was during the White House press briefing earlier this afternoon. President continued, quote, we have alternatives, great alternatives, could be more money. We'll take in more money, and we'll be a lot stronger for it. We're taking in hundreds of billions of dollars. We'll continue to do so. The president also announced he is imposing a 10% global tariff following the court's decision, saying, quote, today I will sign an order to impose a 10% global tariff under Section 122 over and above our normal tariffs already being charged. And we're also initiating several Section 301 and other investigations to protect our country from unfair trading practices of other countries and companies. So it's already underway, Ken, as we talked about. There's going to be, there's lots of legal minds on both sides of this issue, but especially in the Trump administration, that have already found ways around this ruling and are going to essentially continue down the same path that the president has been on with the tariffs to this point.
Yeah, I think Susie Moore is correct when she said earlier today that the Trump administration was already ready for a lot of this stuff happening. They're getting everybody. They've had they're getting their ducks in a row early on. So I think they do have a plan in advance, which is a sign of a good leadership anyway. But when all you're really trying to do is even the playing field on your own country to the rest of the world, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Of course, you've got to go by the Constitution, and if there's a rewording of the statute that has to happen, like Susie said, that's fine. Mm-hmm. Let's let it play out. But at the same time, let's not be so partisan. I mean, you said it, and I think I agree, where there were hints of some kind of partisanship there in some fashion.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. Our listeners were saying on the stream, Gabe, today, well, China could even be involved. We don't know it behind the scenes. We don't know fully about the Supreme Court. We don't know. But at the same time, you don't want to go into some conspiracy craziness either.
But there's something about, Gabe, to Ken's point, Gabe, there is something about TDS and the constant messaging from the left and from the mainstream media that everything Donald Trump does and touches and says is wrong and evil. And even sometimes it seems like in places where you don't expect it, it just has some way of permeating through everything. And you can't help but think, wherever it may be coming from, I'm not saying that Amy Coney Barrett is suddenly this, ultra liberal judge or anything like that, But it does feel like that that mindset has a way of just kind of seeping into almost every aspect of life, and you can't help but feel like maybe that was part of this ruling. What do you think, Gabe?
Well, basically, over the last decade, we've watched, all corners of the spectrum kind of come after Trump in various ways, using various means. So, yeah, I mean, it's real easy to suspect, like, if that happens, that Trump against Trump or against his plans or things like that. It's like, is this real? Is this a solid reason? Is this reasonable, or is this just TDS at work? I mean, and it's sometimes it gets hard to separate it because we've seen so much TDS. You know what I mean? So I can't say one way or the other with this. Like I said before, I don't really know that much about the legal issues behind it. You know, the wordings of the law and the interpretations and the other things. So I'm going to say that I'm agnostic about the decision itself, but I will say that I don't think it's wrong to at least vet the idea that there might be some anti-Trumpism going on when he takes the type of administrative policy hit that he's taking with the Supreme Court just now.
Last quick question. We will be carrying the State of the Union right here on News Talk STL. It's scheduled for this coming Tuesday evening at 8 p.m. Our time is the scheduled start time for the State of the Union. Probably some rewriting of that speech happening right now in the Trump administration to address this tariff ruling and the path forward. Ken, do you have any big expectations? Do you think that the State of the Union has that? Does it have a big influence on the country? Is it especially important this year with the midterms right around the corner? What's your sort of preview to the speech?
Well, I can't believe that the American people are as gullible as the left wants us to think that they are. Yeah, there's going to be a good portion of the country that's going to be, let's get him. But when the president does the State of the Union, that means I am presenting to you the state of what's happening right now. And if the Democrats decide to balk and not go there, or if they decide to do little shenanigans and play little games, they're going to look petty. They're going to look like children, and I think America's starting to see it. I really do think that they'll even Democrats that are just everyday working people who don't get the information every day. I think they're starting to see and go, wait a minute, what are you doing?
And frankly, Gabe, that's that's my attraction to the State of the Union. I'm not watching for policy. Yeah, I'm not watching for I have a pretty strong opinion on everything. Now, maybe there'll be some announcements of some new plans or whatever that might be super interesting. But, I'm pretty comfortable in my beliefs and knowledge about the major issues. So I'm not watching for that. I want to see the performative demonstrations that I can either get mad about or laugh at or whatever it may be. Almost out of time here, Gabe, but I want to give you a chance to give us your thoughts on the State of the Union.
I think the Democrats' shenanigans from the last State of the Union actually hurt them. I think it made them look childish and foolish.
Yep.
I mean, even Fetterman kind of called them out on that. So yeah, I hope they do it again.
Yeah,
I do too, Gabe.
I want the paddles back.
Right.
I do too. I do too. I don't know that I believe that they believe that they looked foolish.
Not
you
at
know
all.
What I mean?
No, in their egocentric world,
no,
they think, we got them, man.
I think that they think they looked cool.
Yeah.
And
they were fighting the power.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly. And
Resist 2.0, baby.
And they're proud of their actions. It just shows you just how delusional that mindset is and how out of touch with reality and most of America they really are.
Yeah.
And yet they continue to have influence that far exceeds their intelligence, it seems.
I think if we get the SAVE Act, we're going to see a lot less Democrats in office.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Gabe Pfeiffer, thank you, buddy. Thanks for messing with the schedule a little bit and rolling with the punches and joining us on a Friday afternoon. We'll talk to you again in just a few days on Monday, right after the weekend. So thanks as always, buddy.
Absolutely. Thanks, guys. God bless.
See you, Gabriel.
And, of course, Ken Williams, thanks, as always, for joining us on a Friday. And tune in every weekday, 9 a.m. to noon, 3 big hours, the Vic Porcelli Show with Ken Williams Thanks for your time as always, dude.
It's always my pleasure, Tony. Thank you, and thanks, Ashlyn.
Yeah. We're going to, in the 3 o'clock hour, we're going to be joined by Susie Moore. She'll be able to give us some legal perspective on this Supreme Court ruling on tariffs. Danny Define, News Talk STL contributor, is going to be my co-host in studio for the entire 3 o'clock hour. All of that is coming up. And in just a couple minutes, we are going to bring you the weekend forecast from Channel 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton. He joins us next on Colombo Company.
It's Friday!
Tim Jones and Chris Arps in the afternoon.
Chris, Joey, and I on the road again. We'll be broadcasting live from statewide Lincoln Days, poolside at the outstanding Oasis.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps. Weekdays at 4 on News Talk STL.
Looking for insurance you can truly trust? Since 1986, Bauer Insurance Agency has been protecting families and businesses across Missouri and Illinois. Owner Cindy Blanton doesn't just offer one quote. She shops all the top carriers like Progressive, Travelers, Safeco, and more to find you the best rates. Whether it's your home, auto, toys, or business, we've got you covered. Visit us at Mid-Rivers Mall in St. Peters or call 636-812-2001. Bauer Insurance Agency, the company that protects. The name you can trust.
Craving the best donuts in town? Master Donuts is your destination for everything delicious. From flaky croissants and kolaches to mouth-watering maple bacon rounds and long johns, apple fritters, cinnamon rolls, donut holes, and a wide variety of specialty donuts that'll make your taste buds dance. We've got something for everyone. Stop by one of our 2 area locations or find us on Facebook. Remember, Doughnut, go anywhere else. Master Donuts. You'll be glad you did.
You talk about race relations.
This conversation has completely made me crazy.
This is complete insanity. And I'm sick and tired of it.
101.9 and 94.1.
I find it to be a conversation starter.
News Talk STL. Steve Templeton's Weekend Forecast, brought to you by Connor Roofing. You can count on Connor for all your roofing needs. Visit ConnorRoofing.com. That's CONNER Roofing.com.
Welcome back to Colombo and Company on 101.9 News Talk STL. Great stuff there from Ken Williams and Gabe Pfeiffer. If you missed any of that conversation, go back and check it out on the podcast. In the 3 o'clock hour, just about 10 minutes from now, we'll be joined by News Talk STL contributor Danny Define. He's going to be with me for the entire 3 o'clock hour. We'll get back into some of the news, and we'll have some Friday fun time. And also, Susie Moore is going to be calling us, of course, the co-host of Mike Ferguson in the Morning from redstate.com, Red State Radio. And Susie is an attorney, so I'm going to get the legal reaction and details to the Supreme Court ruling today regarding Trump's tariffs. So looking forward to that. Right now, we have got on the line with us Channel 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton. Steve, it was warm, and now it's cold, and here we go. So you never know what to expect these days. So thanks, as always, for your time. And, yeah, walk us through the next few days.
My pleasure. Boy, weather keeps me busy around here. I love
bet.
it. Yeah, it was 68 yesterday, 73 on Wednesday, and now by Sunday, the daytime wind chill will be at best 25 degrees. So... Yeah, we told you, though, during those stretch of 70s and 60s to keep the parkas out. You'll need them. So it's cooler today, and it just kind of gets colder and colder each day we go through Monday, actually. After that, temperatures rebound. So here's how it goes for Saturday. 29 for the low. May have some spots of flurries or maybe an isolated pocket of very light snow. I don't expect much of any accumulation. Ground temperature should melt it off, but there could be like a dusting on a car or raised surface in an isolated area. I think most of us stay dry. Some may see a few flurries. That's in the morning hours. The afternoon actually decreasing clouds, so we see more peaks of sun, partly to mostly sunny in the afternoon, but a cold high of 42 degrees. And then on Sunday, a low of 24 and a high of 36. That is a cold day. And then you throw in the winds. They'll be gusting to 30, 35 miles per hour. That gets our wind chill to 25 during the day. Now, it will be mostly sunny Sunday, but it is going to be cold with 30s and a wind chill in the 20s.
Man, yeah, and it's a reminder. It's still February in St. Louis, so it can definitely be cold. And as you've heard me say many times, March is a lie. March can still be cold, even though a lot of people are prepared for the warm up in March. One thing that people need to put on the calendar is we're just a couple weeks away, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it's like the first weekend of March is daylight saving time when we will spring the clocks forward. That'll be a big change, and also a big milestone to hopefully getting to the finish line of this winter weather in St. Louis. So
that's not March 1st, which is a Sunday. I think that's a Sunday. I think it's the 2nd March, so it's like March 8th. But I mean, that's going to come up on us pretty quickly.
Yeah. Oh, you're right. Yeah, the first full weekend. Yeah, in March. It's early March. I know that which is right around the corner. Doesn't sound possible that we're almost done with the month of February. But right around the corner, and another good sign that things are heading in the right direction. I know
we do have warmer temperatures next week. We got some 50s and 60s Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and into the following weekend. So even though we're going through this cold spell this weekend and into Monday, temperatures do rebound. So it'll start to feel like you're saying, that we're getting close. There's a light at the end of the tunnel. We're going to turn the corner soon. I think it'll feel more like that next week with more persistent 50s and 60s.
One last question. It's kind of a weird one. We're always talking about, whether or not we've had too much rain or not enough rain. After all that snow was piled up and sitting around for so long, I feel like the ground has been a sponge for the last 2 months. I mean, forever, for weeks. It feels like that. Has all of that water, all that moisture, had any impact? Has it maybe been a good thing that we needed? Is it has there been any impact from all that melting snow and all that water that has created? I mean, if you have pets running in and out of the house, I mean, it's been a mess.
Yeah. I mean, that topsoil's wet, but we didn't get a lot of rain up until recently. That really helped. We went into a drought. We were in a moderate with isolated pockets of severe drought. Our recent rainfall, that one Saturday that rained just about all day, that was a beneficial rain. And I know it made Mardi Gras not so fun, but that was a beneficial rain and really helped us in the drought situation. So that helped more than the melting snow. But, every time, whether you have the melting snow and then you have rain, it just makes for more persistent, 4 muddy paws when the dog's running back into the house.
Well, great stuff, Steve. I appreciate it as always. We know to be ready, especially on Sunday. Going to be a little bit brisk out there, but hopefully we're getting closer and closer to turning things around here and finally starting to warm up. Thank you, as always, for your time. Steve Templeton, really appreciate it. Have a great rest of your day.
My pleasure.
Yeah.
Take care.
Stuff. Thanks. That is Channel 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton. Always great to hear that. And, if this weekend being a little bit colder is not good for you as far as getting outside is concerned, I've got an idea. Come and join myself and my co-hosts from the Bluff City Outdoors Show. Bluff City Outdoors Show every Saturday morning at 11 a.m. here on News Talk STL. And, of course, Bluff City Outdoors, your place for all your fishing needs and bow hunting needs and trapping needs in the St. Louis area. They're in Alton, open 7 days a week. Bluff City Outdoors, they're in Alton. They are going to be a part of the STL Boat and Fishing Show, the St. Louis Boat and Fishing Show, which is happening this weekend, starting today, and then all through Saturday and Sunday down at America Center and the Dome. Bluff City Outdoors booth is going to be front and center at that event. It's just inside the main doors, which is an awesome location for those guys. I will be down there this weekend. So will our co-host, local professional fisherman Mike Marfell. So if you're looking for a cool family event, come out and join us at the St. Louis Boat and Fishing Show. Stop by the Bluff City Outdoors booth and say hi to us, and come out and join us. It's going to be a whole lot of fun. Like I said, great stuff for the kids and the whole family out there. So hope to see you if you're looking for something to do this weekend. All right, keep it here. We are going to talk to Susie Moore, get her thoughts on this tariff ruling from the Supreme Court. And Danny Define is going to co-host the entire 3 o'clock hour with me next.
Rhino Shield is engineered to outlast paint, formulated to outsmart the elements. Rain or shine, sleet or snow, mold or mildew. Our home exterior coatings intelligently designed to stand up to Mother Nature. Call 877-25-RHINO or 877-25rhino.com.
Hey, it's Vic Porcelli here with our great friend Chris Cooper from Serenity Wealth Management. Hi, Chris.
How are you, Vic?
I don't want to put anybody else down, but that when you go up and visit you at Serenity Wealth, your place looks like home.
So a lot of financial advisory offices, they have, the big mahogany desk or the big marble entryways and things like that, the stock market channel on the TV when you walk in the door, right? That doesn't really drive a good conversation. Good financial guidance and advice starts with a good conversation. People are nervous. People are afraid to talk about finances, right? And so you can see a little standoffish. Well, my objective is to try to have a good, casual conversation. By having those conversations about life, goals, objectives, it's what makes me understand what our financials are supposed to fund.
So if somebody does want to have a good conversation, how do they do that? How do they find you?
Our website is the best way to do that because you can get all the information you need, understand where we are, get a little bit more information, all that. SerenityWealthNow.com.
Reach out to Chris and Stacy today at SerenityWealthNow.com.
Investment advice offered through Fortis Capital Advisors, LLC.
Yo, this is Vic. Vic for Vets is proudly honoring our veterans. Every Wednesday at 11:05, you'll hear about that day's honoree and their incredible service to our country.
Hi, it's Ken. You want to nominate a veteran? Send their name, service information, and story to me, Ken, at newstalkstl.com.
Brought to you by Alamo Military Collectibles, Gemini Wealth Group, and Heroes Care.
Together, let's celebrate the heroes in our community. Vic for Vets, where honor meets gratitude.
Hey, Colombo here for Rockwood Charcoal. Rockwood is made from 100% pure Missouri oak and hickory, so you're cooking with the best and supporting local industry and a local business all at once. There's over 100 area Rockwood retailers. Find yours at rockwoodcharcoal.com.
KLGY HD3 Clayton, K270BW Bellefonte, KNBS Bowling Green. This is News Talk STL at 1019, 94.1, and always streaming at newstalkstl.com.
Breaking news at Town Hall. I'm Bob Agnew in Washington. The Supreme Court has struck down President Trump's far-reaching global tariffs, handing him a big setback on his crucial economic plan. Now, taking it all in stride, the president says he'll impose a global 10% tariff as a new alternative.
Now I'm going to go in a different direction, probably the direction that I should have gone the first time, but I read the language. I'm very good at reading language, and it read our way 100%, but now I'll go the way I could have gone originally, which is even stronger than our original choice.
Today's 6-3 decision centers on those tariffs the president unilaterally imposed under an emergency powers law, including the sweeping reciprocal tariffs levied on nearly every other country. Businesses, meanwhile, could be the big winners from the Supreme Court ruling today if they get some of the money back. They're the ones who have to pay those tariffs when they ship in goods from certain countries overseas. Paul Rogers owns an Italian market in Atlanta. He says he doubts he'll be compensated, even if it comes down to that.
It's going to apply to the major companies, but it's the small business owner that's been hurt the most. So if these major importers, if they get reimbursed, I doubt there's going to be a trickle-down effect for small businesses.
UPS drivers are being offered $150,000 buyouts.
A lawyer for the International Brotherhood of Teamsters told a judge Thursday that the union expects over 10,000 United Parcel Service drivers to accept $150,000 buyouts if the delivery giant is allowed to proceed with a planned workforce cutting program. An attorney for the union representing over 320,000 UPS workers is urging a federal judge to block UPS from moving ahead with the buyouts, alleging the buyouts violate the national contract.
That is Bill Alexander reporting on Wall Street at the close. The Dow was up 230 points. More from townhall.com.
When you're vacationing in your RV, there are some things you can always count on. Taking the kayaks out on a lake, hot dogs on the grill, and your sister's boyfriend pulling out his acoustic guitar.
Everyone quiet! Harrison's playing. Wow, You're so good, Harrison.
With Progressive, your RV is protected 24/7, so you're prepared for whatever you don't see coming. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates, not available in D.C.
Hey, it's Mike Gallagher, hoping you'll join me on the unforgettable Gulf of America cruise happening in November of 2026. Imagine this: turquoise waters, white sand beaches, incredible food, insightful conversations about the future of America. Scott Jennings and I will be your hosts. We'll dive into the issues shaping America as we cruise through some of the most stunning destinations while honoring the 250th anniversary of our nation. Book your cabin today. Text the word cruise to 94878. Text cruise to 94878 or visit MikeOnline.com.
From the Michael's Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
I'm First Alert 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton. A colder weekend coming our way. A low down to 29 degrees for Saturday morning. Some pockets of flurries or very light snow. We don't expect any impacts, and actually decreasing clouds and turning partly sunny in the afternoon on Saturday with a high of 42 degrees. That's a chilly day, though, and especially since we just had 70 a couple days ago. Sunday's even colder, a high of 36, and it is going to be blustery, so the wind chill about 25 degrees at best during the daytime under mostly sunny skies for Sunday. That's the latest from the First Alert 4 Weather Center. I'm Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton.
This hour of News Talk STL brought to you by Chris Cooper and Serenity Wealth Management. Discover little-known strategies that could be the difference between choosing the care you deserve or having someone else decide it for you. Get a free copy of Chris's book at serenityltc.com.
Fox News commentary with Craig Gutfeld. Next.
Progressive Commercial presents Heroes That Keep Truckers Going. Today's hero, your favorite sassy diner server. Sure, her eyes might say, I don't have all day. But deep down, you know that extra pancake on your plate says, I dislike you less than most people. Thanks, hero. What else can keep truckers going? Progressive truck insurance with primary liability limits up to $2 million. Get a quote in as little as 7 minutes at progressivecommercial.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates. Covered subject to terms and limits.
Here's Greg Gutfeld.
So this week is the 35th anniversary of the only horror film ever to win the Oscar for Best Picture. I'm talking about Silence of the Lambs. And now one of the stars apologized for the role that made him famous. Ted Levine played cross-dressing serial killer Buffalo Bill, but we've seen this before. Sarah Silverman apologized for jokes told earlier in her career. Hank Azaria for voicing Apu on The Simpsons. They're all generational cowards, throwing the past under the bus to appease today's no-talent whiners. And how lame are they to think that today's standards are superior to those of the past? Why is that? Because today a man can pretend he's the opposite sex and get a trophy in women's swimming? But if you truly believe current standards rule, then how long before those are outdated too?
For more commentary like this, go to foxnewspodcast.com.
Free speech is alive and well in America.
Thanks for taking my call.
Right here.
You know what's going on?
Have a great awakening.
You see through the smoke screen.
It's cool to be woke.
News Talk STL.
Until it's not.
News, analysis, opinion. Follow Tony Colombo on Twitter at Tony Colombo Talk.
Welcome back to Colombo Company on 101.9 94.1 News Talk STL. Tony Colombo here in studio with producer Ashlyn. I just broke one of my own cardinal rules: never run to an open mic. But when you forget your guest's headphones and the show's starting, you got to move quick. Danny Define is in studio with us. Great to see you, buddy. How are you?
Tony, I'm doing well, and you actually handled that great. You got to. It's the Olympic season, so I know it's the Winter Games, but wind sprints, I think you might have a future
sprints.
there.
There you go.
Yeah, and you're not out of breath. Your cardio must be pretty good.
Yeah, like the 8-yard dash.
There we go.
Whatever.
Just quick as a cat. Tony the Tiger. Tony the Tiger. Quick as a cat.
Danny's going to be with us for the rest of the 3 o'clock hour as we unpack the news stories of the week. And then we're going to have a little Friday fun time towards the end of the show. And also just an impromptu visit as we also start this 3 o'clock hour. Susie Moore, who's usually with us on Tuesday afternoons. I asked Susie last minute if she could jump on with us, and she has been gracious enough to join us to talk about the legal, help us kind of unpack the legal impact of the Supreme Court ruling on tariffs this afternoon. So Susie Moore is on the line with us. Susie, thanks for your time this afternoon.
Hey, Tony, you're welcome. Glad to be here.
So did any of this, you and I have talked a lot about this ruling, and it's you kind of called it, as far as a few weeks ago, there were all these headlines that were like, oh, the tariff ruling is could happen in 24 hours. And, you explained to us how nobody knows that. It's just a guess. It can come at any time, and, it'll just, you can predict all you want, but it'll just kind of happen whenever it happens. And today it happened, sort of out of nowhere. I mean, we've been expecting this for a while, but, it happened. And I think it was, correct me if I'm wrong, but this is kind of what people were expecting. We didn't think it was going to go well for Trump, but correct me if I'm wrong, and also just kind of, give us your thoughts on the possible impact or meaning of this ruling today.
No, you're not wrong in that. A couple things. We don't know ahead of time which decisions are going to come down. I mean, obviously, if they haven't argued it yet, it's not going to be that. But we've been waiting kind of anxiously for the tariff decision and for the Voting Rights Act case. And so I can just say from personal experience at Red State, we were, doing our best to be prepared for either one and be ready to get an article up fairly quickly, depending on the decision. So you just don't know till they actually hand them down, which ones are coming down on a given day. I think people had a sense after the oral argument was had on this case that it might not go particularly well for the administration, that the Supreme Court might not agree that the statute in question, I'm just going to call it by its acronym, IEPA, because I can never remember what the acronym stands for. It's International Economic...
I had it earlier. International Emergency Economic Powers Act.
Yeah, there you go.
I have it written down.
But I like IEPA better anyway. So whether the court was looking at whether that particular statute authorized the imposition of tariffs, as the president used that statute for as the basis for a number of the tariffs that he has imposed, since he retook office. And ultimately, the court, 6 of the justices determined no, that statute does not authorize it because it doesn't explicitly delegate that power to the president. And typically, since tariffs are taxes, that would be something that's in the purview of Congress. So if Congress wants to delegate that to the executive, then they need to be explicit about it. So it's in some ways, it's a blow to the administration, and it creates some confusion because there's been a lot of tariff money collected, and there's a whole other issue about what they do now. But what the court itself recognizes, and President Trump has since emphasized too, is that that's not the only basis under which the executive is able to impose tariffs. There are a number of other statutes that provide some of that authority and do so explicitly. So I don't think this particular decision caught the administration off guard. I think they have probably been preparing for quite some time to, figure out their next move so that they can continue with their strategy, and that's what we're going to see them do. The biggest question it leaves is, okay, so for all of the tariffs that were imposed over the past year pursuant to IEPA, which now the court has said, no, you can't do that, how do we unwind that? Because that money's already been paid to the U.S.
Mm-hmm.
So that's going to be kind of a mess. And Justice Kavanaugh in his dissent rightly points that out. So I'm sure we're going to see some.
That's a really interesting part of this that we haven't discussed yet. Like, are countries going to now come after the United States and say, hey, you need to pay us back the money that we paid you in these tariffs because your own country determined these to be illegal under this international act, the IEPA. I was calling it EPA earlier. I like IEPA better.
IEPA.
So I got more. I want a little bit more. I got some more questions for Susie before we let her go. But Danny, if you have any questions for Susie, just jump in. But what was your reaction when you saw this ruling today? And I agree with Susie. We've been told many times that the president's always playing 4D chess and he's 5 steps ahead of everybody. So I'm sure that they weren't, as Susie said, caught off guard. They had a contingency plan in place that they've already started to put into to effect. But still, obviously, a speed bump for the administration. What are your thoughts?
Certainly a speed bump, and the timing right before the State of the Union next week. I'm sure that'll be brought up extensively in that State of the Union.
There's some people rewriting that speech as we speak, I think.
Certainly.
At least sections of it, yeah.
And I don't think Donald Trump, knowing Donald Trump, he's not going to be pulling any punches, and I'm sure he'll have a few choice words to say regarding that ruling. But yeah, Donald Trump, this isn't his first rodeo, right? This is his second term. He's had the 4-year gap in between to anticipate these challenges, these roadblocks, to surround himself with a legal team. And I really hope, and we'll see, it's hope right now, optimistic thinking perhaps, but I hope he did assemble the team and did have the contingencies in place to figure out the next steps of this.
So, Susie, I know that there's a lot of hoops and legal ease and loopholes and all kinds of ways around this, because it is confusing today that in one headline you get, the Supreme Court rules that Trump can't use the tariffs that, that he's been using since coming in office the second time. And then the next headline is, President Trump announces a new 10% global tariff. It's like, so like, how does that work? Is this just an example of what you just said about the contingency plan and the ways to work around this ruling?
Yeah, so think about it this way. Okay, so tariffs are pretty much, people agree, tariffs essentially are taxes. And traditionally, taxing something that's going to raise revenue, that's in the purview of Congress. Congress is the branch that is supposed to be acting to levy tariffs, generally speaking, anything that involves generating revenue, okay? So if it's going to be the executive that's going to do that rather than Congress, it has to be because Congress has specifically delegated to the executive, hey, under these circumstances, the president can do X, Y, Z. And there are a number of different statutes involving trade that do specifically contemplate the executive imposing the tariffs. IEEPA just isn't one of them. And I think there's reasons why the administration chose to go that route initially, because there are maybe a couple fewer hoops to jump through in order to invoke that. So I think maybe they decided they'd try the easy way first and see how that works. But there are definitely other statutes. The president, when in his presser talking about this, cited several of those in his remarks, including Section 232 of the Trade Act of, I think it's 1962. And then there's another one. There's a couple different sections out there.
We got a global tariff under Section 122 over and above our normal tariffs, and then also initiating several actions under Section 301. So,
right. So he's citing other statutes that do specifically allow for that. So basically, it's just another route, another avenue to take.
Clear as a bell, Danny.
Clear as mud.
Susie, I know we'll talk more about this next week, and it'll be great when we talk on Tuesday, because we'll have had a few days to sort of digest all of this and see what the president's, all the actions that he's taken and the reaction to all of these new initiatives by the president. But to put a bow on it for today, was this ruling, in your opinion, a major stumbling block for the Trump administration and its financial and tariff-driven agenda? Or is it just that speed bump that we kind of mentioned earlier, and there's ways around this ruling today?
I think it's the latter.
Yeah.
I don't think it's fair to say that this is just ruinous, which is what, of course, the left and the legacy media are going to claim. But I also don't think it's fair to say, it doesn't mean anything. Of course, it means something. It is a speed bump, but they're creative.
Yeah, absolutely. Susie Moore from Red State Radio on Sundays here on News Talk STL, redstate.com, and of course, every morning on Mike Ferguson in the morning here on News Talk STL. Thanks for a little extra time on this Friday, Susie. Really appreciate it. Have a great weekend. We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, guys. Have a great day.
Yeah, you bet. So, Danny, before we get off the tariffs issue, if we know that the president had a plan and a contingency plan and could work around this tariffs ruling. So did the court, and so did the Democrats and everything. So I can't help but think that a lot of this motivation was simply political, trying to throw, even if it is just a speed bump, even if it is just a, something to make the president stumble. We've seen a little bit of a reaction in the markets today. He's kind of been on a pretty good roll with the economy, overall. Do you look at this as more of just a sort of an attempt to derail the president, even if it is temporary, especially in, that could have even more impact in a midterm election year like the one that we're in, or a real serious legal issue that we needed to get to the bottom of? I feel like there's more politics than anything. What do you think?
Well, if it is a political thing with the Supreme Court, wasn't two of his nominees struck this down,
Coney
right?
Barrett
So
was,
Amy Coney
she's
Barrett
the most
and
surprising
Gorsuch.
one. Gorsuch, and Roberts, he wasn't Trump, obviously, but he's allegedly a conservative justice, but you can never trust the chief judge. You never know where he's gonna fall. I'm most surprised by Coney Barrett, but your point is well taken.
But it's a theme, though, that I'm seeing, and this is what we were talking about with the DOJ and Pam Bondi and people that are upset with her and people that are upset with Kash Patel. In the first term, people that were upset with Jeff Sessions and some of these other people that Donald Trump himself put into those positions. So if it is truly political and you have bad actors on the court that aren't going to go along with Trump's agenda, well, two of those, Gorsuch and Amy Coney Barrett, were put in there by Donald Trump. So you have to go back a ways to say, well, who actually put these people in these positions? So that's the interesting take there, if it is truly political. But I wanted to ask Susie this, and I don't know if we're going to have the full answer yet, but $175 billion have already been collected from the tariffs.
Yeah.
So when it comes to the payback, what's the plan in place for that? Is that going to be on the American people as far as raising taxes, or what does that look like as far as a repayment of those $175 billion in tariff revenue that the government's already collected?
So she briefly touched on that at the very beginning of her of her answer there, but the reason that we didn't get into it is because that's a great question that Brett Kavanaugh actually addressed in his dissent of this ruling. That was like, hey, if you're going to go down this path, think about all the other dominoes that are going to fall, including this. Like, now, are all of these countries around the world going to be coming after the United States for billions of dollars to say, hey, look, we paid you these tariffs, and in your own country just made a ruling that they were illegal, so you need to pay us back? Nobody has the answer to your question yet, and it's going to be a really important one moving forward.
Yeah, there's a lot of important things that we need to hash out after today's ruling, and that is right at the top of the list.
Yeah, absolutely. So one of them, obviously a major issue that we'll continue to keep an eye on. And like I said, on Monday, we will talk to Paul Kurtman, which I can't wait for that, because we'll be able to really dig into the financial impact and economic impact of this ruling. And then on Tuesday, when we get a chance to catch up with Susie again after the weekends happen and days have gone by, and we've been able to sort of digest this and unpack it. Danny, another issue that is happening right now is we're in a partial government shutdown. Does anybody even know that?
It's like the changing of the seasons at this point, right? You can never tell if they're in session, out of session, if it's shut down or not. It really hasn't affected me much personally.
It hasn't affected me much either. There are concerns, real concerns about this one down the line, at least, because what's the most ironic and ridiculous thing about this is completely created by the Democrats, just like the last one was, as a way to, in their mind, push back on ICE and, Trump's deportation and immigration agenda. And we're going to defund ICE. Well, ICE is funded. It's already in the books. This will not impact ICE. Unless this goes on for months and months, none of this will impact ICE. But it will impact Border Patrol, TSA, the Coast Guard, and some other agencies So the Democrats aren't even hurting the agency that they claim that this is all about, but they are hurting people like the Coast Guard in this. It's not. I haven't felt any impact either. It's a much smaller government shutdown than we've seen in the past, but that doesn't make it any less ridiculous or misleading from the Democrats' side of things.
Yeah, well, it will be interesting to see how Donald Trump addresses all of this next week at the State of the Union, because I actually had a text earlier from the Trump campaign.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sure it was from Donald Trump himself.
Yeah, you have that direct line.
And I'll go down the list here, some of the things that, if time allows.
Go, please. Because you're good.
We'll jump into this. But this was the text that I received, and I'm sure millions of other people as well, from the Trump campaign this morning. And I'll ask you, Tony, and feel free to jump in on any of these. So the text read, what are you most looking forward to hearing about during the State of the Union on Tuesday? First issue, border wins and future mass deportation, which I thought the future part there was a bit interesting, adding that part in. Economic successes and affordability action items, so I'm sure that'll be the tariffs that will be heavily involved in that conversation. America's great health care plan and Trump RX. The other item is tax cuts for working families and seniors. Rooting out fraud and corruption was the last point that was on this text that came over from me. And I certainly have my comments. I'd love to hear from you, though, any of those topics.
I will say that he hit all the important ones. Those are all issues that I'm, that I would bring up as the most important things for him to be addressing.
Certainly.
The deportation one is into the future.
The future deportations.
I would rather
How do you interpret that?
I'd rather that word be continued.
Right. or the massive success that we just had the last year in office on deportations. Future deportations is a little bit odd to me.
Yeah. Do you read that as an indication that he intends to ramp things up, or?
I personally, and I'm hopefully not being cynical here, I view it as we're going to continue to throw out this red meat to the base and kick the can down the road and keep people anticipating and excited about these potential mass deportations. But as I've said on your show many times, Tony, the clock's ticking on this. We're in 13 months now, 14 months of the second Trump term, and we have the midterms coming up in November, and it's like we said, to carry out the deportations, that this isn't me promising it. This is Donald Trump promising
Number one, probably, campaign promise.
He's been saying that since 2015, and he ran on it again heavily in 2024. So my thing is, future deportations, well, the clock is ticking. So because if you're going to carry it out the way that he wants it to go, which a majority of Americans want it to go with the mass deportations, like we said, there's going to be some tough optics that are going to happen, just sheer mathematics. If you're talking about deportations on that kind of large scale, you're going to have some tough situations, like what happened in Minnesota, what happened in Los Angeles, Southern California not too long ago. And that, I think, will be that'll be a pressure point from Donald Trump, or not from Donald Trump, towards Donald Trump from a lot of Republicans in these states that are, especially states that are more purple, that could go either way. I could see a lot of these Republican senators, congresspeople putting pressure on Trump to scale that back because they don't want those tough optics leading up to their specific election.
And if that's the case, if they
and
back down,
that
worries me tremendously. But I think you're onto something there. And I have a lot more to say about this. I want to continue this conversation because it's an important one. And I think that there are some things that are attached to this deportation, immigration plan that are immediately an issue that needs to be addressed. Well, anyway, we're going to dig.
We have a lot on this menu here that we need to get to.
Danny Define is in the studio with us for the rest of the show. Stick around. We're going to talk about this and more, and I have a little Friday fun time before we wrap things up here on Colombo and Company.
For podcast articles and more, find us on newstalkstl.com. News, analysis,
I'm glad you're talking about this.
Opinion.
I'm glad you're fired up about it, too, because I know I am.
News Talk STL.
So I mentioned earlier that this weekend is the St. Louis Boat and Fishing Show at the Dome at America's Center. I'm going to be out there with the guys from Bluff City Outdoors. Bluff City Outdoors is going to be right there. Their booth is right inside the main doors of this convention this weekend. So come out and join us. Of course, Bluff City Outdoors open 7 days a week in Alton, Illinois. Your place to go for all of your fishing needs, all of your bow hunting needs, all of your trapping needs, and more, including all of your Garmin technology needs with the forward-facing sonar that has just revolutionized the fishing industry over the last couple of years. You can also shoot every day in the state-of-the-art archery range there at Bluff City Outdoors. So come and join us. We're all going to be out there this weekend at the Bluff City Outdoors booth at the St. Louis Boat and Fishing Show. And, of course, always check out Bluff City Outdoors and Alton. And don't forget about the Bluff City Outdoors show, Saturday mornings, 11 a.m. here on News Talk STL, hosted by myself and local professional fisherman Mike Marfell, and, of course, the owner of Bluff City Outdoors, Mark McMurray. Learn more about Bluff City Outdoors by following them on Facebook and at bluffcityoutdoors.com.
News Talk STL is proud to have Doug Voss of Safe Money Radio as part of our lineup each week. Doug has been a staple on the St. Louis radio airways for many years as one of the leading financial experts in the area. You can now hear Doug and Safe Money Radio 2 times every weekend on News Talk STL. But in case you miss anything, you can check it all out at DougVossSafeMoneyRadio.com. You could also reach Doug at 844-676-SAFE. That's 844-676-7233.
Doug Voss is a registered representative. Securities offered through DHL Securities, LLLP, member FINRA and SIPC.
This is Larry Connor's commentary on News Talk STL.
In junior high school, I had a teacher who often wanted us to name the members of the president's cabinet. It was a smaller cabinet then, but we failed often. She said, it would behoove you to know. Behoove? What was behoove? Nowadays, how many junior high, high school, even college students can answer the questions? A recent national education survey found that barely 25% of American students can read, write, or do math at their grade level. You wouldn't expect a third grader to do high school algebra, but barely 25% of third graders were capable of doing what they should be able to do? Pathetic. New York State students did better after a major grading on a curve. The state lowered the standards so more kids could be proficient. One college professor claiming, my students protesting ICE cannot even pass the basic citizenship test. They complain about civil rights being abused, but they can't tell you which government branch has the power to declare war. Again, pathetic. It would behoove these students and our nation to focus on education.
Get more Larry Connors on Larry Connors USA.
Tonight at 6 on News Talk STL.
John Beal Roofing reminds you we are in the stormy season, and that means if you have even the smallest leak in your roof, you could soon have a much bigger issue. Call to John Beal to make sure that your biggest investment is protected. That call can save you major dollars. If you do get hit during a storm, John Beal has a rapid response team. Call 1-800-NEW-ROOF. 1-800-NEW-ROOF. 1-800-NEW-ROOF, John Beal.
Concerned about the condition of your windows driving up your energy bills? I was too. It's only called STL Windows and Doors. Their Provia windows combine old world craftsmanship the professional way, the Provia way, with over 65 years of combined experience, locally owned, offering competitive pricing and personalized service that the big box companies can't match. Call today for your free in-home estimate and start saving tomorrow. 314-277-5952 or STLWindowsandDoors.com.
Why are you going to work? It's Sunday.
It's a brand new show on News Talk STL. JC's Sunday Showgram.
It's the 25th anniversary of the death of George Harrison this week. We'll go back for some classic moments with Gene Siskel. We lost him this week in '99. And did this really happen, or did I dream it when I shocked the world this week in '93 going to KMOX? All brought to you by the Weber Automotive Group.
Sunday morning, 7 to 9. Then podcast each Monday on NewsTalkSTL.com.
When I have business clients or guests from out of town, I often take them to Cafe Napoli. I know they're going to enjoy any of the Napoli locations. Cafe Napoli in Clayton, Napoli 2 in Town and Country, Napoli 3 in St. Charles, next to Napoli C, Napoli Kirkwood, or Napoli Brothers Pizza and Pasta in the Chesterfield Valley. Excellent food and intellectual conversation, if they bring the intellectual conversation. And NapoliSTL.com, NapoliSTL.com.
On the next
Larry Connors USA.
Today's story behind the story, why actor Robert Duvall refused to make Godfather 3.
Larry Connors USA. Now weeknights 6 until 8 on News Talk STL.
Welcome back to Colombo Company on 101.9 News Talk STL. Danny Define in studio with us as we get closer to the Tim Jones and Chris Arp show. They are out and about today. They're in Springfield, Missouri. It's Lincoln Days. They're going to be broadcasting live from Springfield this afternoon, so definitely keep it here for that. Diving back into this text that was sent by the Trump administration to many of the Trump followers and people who are engaged in politics, and laying out, what do you want to see the president talk about during the State of the Union? And I got another point about, we're just talking about the deportation push and the ICE issue and the government shutdown that's tied into it. As Danny has pointed out many times on this show, and we've talked about a lot over the last, several months, as much as the media and the left wants you to believe that Donald Trump and ICE and DHS have been on this massive deportation spree like we've never seen before, that's just not true. Barack Obama deported more people than Donald Trump. So when I say, as I've been saying for, weeks now, when it comes to this government shutdown and the debate over DHS funding, that Republicans have nothing to negotiate here. They act like they're negotiating this DHS funding. There's nothing to negotiate. He's already behind, believe it or not, because it would never be, it's never reported on honestly when it comes to the numbers. And if they take a step back in any way, then it's even worse. He's not. It's been very frustrating for the people that are paying attention, Danny, to see that we want to see more. Like you said at the break, like you hear from people on the left, like, isn't this mass deportation, Trump's mass deportation plan, terrible? And you're like, yeah, it is terrible because he's not doing it.
Exactly. It's so funny. Well, Obama was known as the deportator in chief.
Yeah.
That was his nickname.
Right.
And if you watch CNN or MSNBC, or you see a lot of these shrieking leftist liberals on Facebook or Instagram, because they're so easy to manipulate with the clickbait, right? The rage bait, and say what you want about the Minnesota altercation or the thing that happened in Southern California, but that is what the left clings on to.
Yeah.
They think that this is Trump is
Hitler
they 2.0.
They want that. They're creating that chaos.
Exactly. But if you take the optics out of it, if you take the theatrics out of it, the rage bait out of it, when you actually dig into the numbers, Donald Trump has deported less people than Obama per year.
And here's the important thing. I want your thoughts on this. You, as the Trump administration, you have to act like this is your last year in office. You cannot take for granted anything with these midterm elections, because if you lose the majority and both houses or either house, your ability to get things done is going to drastically, be hurt.
He needs to be in the 2-minute drill right now.
Yeah, they need to. It can't be making plans for what we're going to do with the deportation issues, or some of these the tax issues that was mentioned in that text message. They need to be acting like the clock is running out, and if they win in the midterms, that's great, and then you can build from there. But you can't take anything for granted, in my opinion. this year. You got to go.
You can't. And again, I don't want to be the pessimist here, but I am losing faith that will actually happen the closer we get to the midterms, the further that this administration kicks the can down the road, because the time to strike was January of 2025. That is when Trump had all the momentum. It was like this renaissance for Donald Trump. He had the public support. People were enthusiastic about him getting back in the White House. People were overwhelmingly enthusiastic, especially in the Republican Party, about the mass deportations. So why not go in day one, January 20th, 2025, and hit the ground running? Mm-hmm. And that was the pitch during the campaign trail in 2024, that day one, mass deportations. We're going to go into every major city in America, and we're going to clean it up, and we're going to get the 10 million, 15 million illegals that Joe Biden welcomed into this country with open arms, opened up the floodgates. I don't think we can even begin to comprehend how destructive the Biden administration was for those 4 years.
Yeah.
It was
the hole
so
that
bad.
was dug.
It was so bad. And that's why, yes, Donald Trump getting back in, is it an upgrade from what we had the last 4 years? Of course. But that's not good enough. You have to overcorrect for all the damage that was done under Joe Biden. And that's when you do come in with an absolute blowtorch and you go into every major city. And listen, nothing against ICE, and I appreciate the people that go and sign up for ICE, that volunteer for ICE. But at the end of the day, and you see a lot of this on video, that it's a little bit sloppy, the work that's being carried out in these cities, because these are not the upper echelon of military or police force. This is, again, I don't want to be derogatory, but it's almost like mall cops. And God love them. They're signing up for ICE. They want to go in and help their country, and I tip my cap to them. But if I were the president for the day, okay, and this is why we need people like Susie Moore to give me the legalities of this, but I'm just talking hypothetical here. If I was the president for the day, why would you not use the strongest military that the world has ever seen? Use the Army, use the Marines, use the Navy SEALs, and just it's gonna be rocky, it's gonna be turbulent, but it has to be done. Why not just go into all of these major cities with these terrible issues with illegal immigration and use the best and the brightest and the most skilled to go in and clean it up?
Or give that same training to ICE, which is my point of like not being able to, not only is there nothing to negotiate to take anything away from ICE as far as funding or resources or anything, Eric Schmidt's bill, a Missouri senator that's been proposed, that does the exact opposite of what the Democrats are asking, puts more training and more resources. Let's train those ICE officers in the skills that we train them. You know what I mean? Let's make them that type of, that's what Eric Schmidt and, a faction of Republicans are pushing for. And yet,
and I applaud him for that.
Yeah, and yet the Trump administration is playing games with, and I know they're not necessarily the ones doing it, but we are playing games in general with these Democrats and negotiating something that has no room to be negotiated. One of the reasons that the State of the Union is going to be very interesting on Tuesday to see, what plan is put in place and the timeline of that, because it's not time to introduce new plans that are going to take place, in the future. It needs to be happening right now. One more thing I wanted to bring up, just to have a little fun at the expense of one of our favorite Democrats here at the end of the show. Zoran Mondani in New York introduced his first free grocery store in the city this week, and it was a chaotic mess. People, you had to get a ticket. You had to stand in line to get a ticket to go into this grocery store, and then you had they gave you a tote, and you had 20 minutes to go in and get your stuff that was free. And you can only imagine, it was only supposed to be open for 3 hours. Thousands of people in line thinking, oh, I'm getting free stuff. What a surprise that free grocery stores or city-run grocery stores or any of that stuff would be a debacle.
I'm getting PTSD from the great toilet paper crisis of 2020. It reminds me when when there was the COVID outbreak, everybody sprinted to Costco and all these different stores to grab up all the toilet paper.
Yeah.
I can imagine it would be something like that, but even worse on steroids.
This is why the State of the Union and the midterm elections and what Trump and the Republicans, the administration, what they do in the next year are so important, because we're getting a look in New York City about what will happen if the Democrats get back into control. Zohran Mamdani has already, tried to cut school programs from the gifted kids up there. He's taken rights away from landlords. He's cut the New York Police Department's budget. He's trying to introduce free grocery stores that are an absolute disaster, and none of it works.
It is a shame because New York is such a tremendous city. It used to be. And I hate to see, we have this defeatist mindset all the time, like we're moving out of the city, Chicago, St. Louis, New York, L.A. Let's reclaim our cities with good leadership and law enforcement and all those other things that make it great.
Danny Define, you're great. Thanks so much for your time this afternoon. Great to see you, buddy. Look forward to talking to you again very, very soon.
Always a pleasure.
That is the great Danny Define. You missed anything from today's show, go back and check it out on our podcast. We put the show out as a podcast every day on basically every podcast platform, so subscribe to Colombo and Company on your favorite podcast platform. Have a great weekend and keep it here for the O'Reilly Report next, followed by the Tim Jones and Chris Arp Show live in Springfield.
Ever feel like just a number in a waiting room? Hi, I'm Shannon Tribune, Director of Operations with Body of Health Direct